This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Watch the greenbacks tumble.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? There we go. You dial set correctly to USAPrepares.com. We're broadcasting from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. Studio A. Information's on the website. And there's a link to all of your instructors at USAPrepares.com. Podcasts are free. And if you need to refresh your memory or revisit something that you've heard on the broadcast, just click on USAPrepares.com, listen to Vincent, and you'll be able to get to the podcasts and share them with friends and family. Converging threats are confronted daily by your instructors. I'm Vincent Finelli. And for those of you new to the class, there are about 200 of us now here at USAPrepares.com. We're experts in various areas. Some of us are dentists, medical doctors, engineers, surgeons, CEOs, broadcasters, researchers, physicists. I'm a farmer. And we have students rising to become instructors. So if you're a student rising to become an instructor, just send me an email, Vincent@USAPrepares.com. We'd love to chat. Make sure you send me your phone number, too. Tom's producing the broadcast. Tom is brand new with us here at USAPrepares.com. I'd like to welcome Tom. We had a few seconds to chat just before the broadcast. Alex is in school. He is studying mathematics. And so Alex is going to be visiting from time to time during the next couple of semesters. But Tom is at the controls at GCN today and will be with us from now on. Meet up tonight, Ziggy's. It's movie night. Madeline Fraser is going to be bringing a movie, and I'm going to be discussing my observations on what I see happening in the economy. Mike Parsons, Mike from Tennessee, might be joining us at the meetup. He's scheduled to be in the neighborhood. He's going to be with his trailer, and he's hauling a load of farm materials back to Tennessee. Frank Underhill's with us. He's the CEO of UnderhillSecurities.com. Frank Underhill is the trusted advisor of Bob Chapman, the late, and the awesome, great Bob Chapman. Welcome, Frank Underhill.
Good morning, Vincent. Glad to be here with you.
Frank, it's so good to hear your voice. You know,
Thank you.
I want to share something with you. I was on the phone on Friday with a company that manufactures pumps, circulation pumps for heating systems in the United States. The company's name is TACO, T-A-C-O. And TACO is an outstanding pump manufacturer. They really are. And I selected that particular company as the company of choice for the heating system that I use here on the farm. And we had a pump failure a couple of weeks ago, and our son, when I was in Virginia, and our son replaced the pump. I always have spares. It's a lifestyle. I had a spare pump, and he just popped the new one in place, and everything was fine. And what that does is, in the summer, we use the outdoor wood furnace, the outdoor furnace that's about 100 feet from our house to burn wood and trees that have fallen down in the farm. And we heat our hot water with it, our domestic hot water. In the winter, we use that same exact system to heat the house. Well, the pump failed, and hot water stopped. And so when I got back, I called TACO, and I explained it to them. And they said, well, how old is the pump? And I said, well, it's marked January 2009. And they said, well, it has a 3-year warranty. So now I'm outside of the warranty. And they said, you know what? We're going to send you another one. Unbelievable. outside of warranty. I don't have the, I didn't have the receipt with me at the time when I was talking to them. They believed what I said. They did the right thing, and they're sending me a new pump. How much is the pump worth? About $100. I mean, it's not a very expensive pump, but they did the right thing. So I want to congratulate TACO, T-A-C-O. They're the manufacturer in Rhode Island. So if you're thinking about a heating system circulator pump, you might want to consider the same company that I chose. They did the right thing. It has a 3-year warranty, but I was outside the warranty, and they made an exception. I didn't have to twist their arm. I didn't say who I was. I just said, I've got a pump, and here's the situation. So they were delighted to replace it, and I don't even have to send the other one back. Amazing. What do you think, Frank? That's the way it used to be, right?
Yeah, that's the way it should be. That's good you share that with your listeners. It's something you very seldom see these days. And by the way, TACO's a very recognized household name in the heating system, in the making for energy. So yeah, that's very good to hear, Vincent.
And I'd like to contrast that, Frank, with some Asian companies. Years ago, I used to buy, when I had our computer manufacturing and consulting company, I used to buy products that were made in Asia, and you really didn't have a choice. They had, I won't go into the brand names, but network switches, Ethernet type of switches. And they would say on the box, lifetime warranty, lifetime. So naturally, I made the false assumption of thinking that a lifetime was, a lifetime, maybe my lifetime. No. And after a few months, these products tended to fail, and I'd call the manufacturer, and they'd say, I've got this part number ABC123, and it has failed, and they'd say, well, it's out of warranty, and I go, hold it. It has a lifetime warranty. And the manufacturer's technical support people would say, yeah, but no, it's out of warranty. That product, we don't make that anymore. I'd say, well, it's only 6 months old. They'd, yeah, but we changed it. And I'd say, wait a minute, it has a lifetime warranty. What the heck does that mean? And they would tell me, well, it's not like your lifetime, Mr. Finelli. It's the lifetime of the product. And that product has been replaced with a new improved model. So it is no longer a current model, and therefore it is no longer under warranty. So with some of these Asian companies that we depend on for our technology, some of the terms lifetime warranty means the lifetime of the product, which is 6 months. That is the exact opposite of TACO, which actually stands behind their products for a specific time, and they actually stand behind them for longer than that. So, Frank, I wanted to share that with you. It's really frustrating when people twist our language and use it against us, like lifetime warranty. Have you heard of that before, like that, Frank? Lifetime
I think
meaning?
it's a phrase to sell. That's all it is. It's you see it on TV, lifetime guarantee, and there's a hammer bashing the handle of a knife or something. It's just salesmanship. Don't believe the lifetime guarantee.
Yeah, it's only as good.
Or a fry pan cooking an egg around with this lifetime guarantee.
Yeah, and its products are only as good as the integrity of the companies behind them. And speaking of that,
and Vincent, can I just say, I've been using the same cast iron skillet for maybe 20 years, 22 years. I still use the same one, and it came with no guarantee, and it still works and wears well, and I keep it cured, and it still flips an egg.
Yeah, well, I still have at the farmhouse my grandmother's cast iron skillets, and they were passed to my mom, and my mom, who's living with us, and passed them to us. So we have 3 generations, actually 4 when you consider our children, that are using the same cast iron skillets without a lifetime warranty. And you're absolutely right, Frank. Along that thinking, I'd like to share a story about just-in-time inventory. And I have redefined what just-in-time inventory means. It used to be that products were stored in a store. So if you went to an auto parts store, there would be the counter near the front door And there would be some products that you could walk around and pick them up and put them on the counter and buy them. But the majority of the inventory for fixing your car or accessorizing your car or truck or vehicle would be behind the counter. They'd be looked up through a parts book, and this is before the implementation of computer systems for inventory indexing. But it was the counter person would, or the counter man or the counter woman would be the person who would find exactly what you need and bring it to the counter, and you could buy it. And they actually had an inventory. Well, I had a failure, an overheating problem when I was trying to bale hay, and our John Deere tractor would overheat and overheat and overheat. And I traced it down to a problem with a thermostat. Very simple problem. This particular John Deere has 2 thermostats, and I called John Deere and I said, do you have these thermostats in stock? And the guy said, well, no, we don't have them, but we can get them for you. And it was like a half a week later that he'd be able to get them for me. Well, my hay was cut. I had a serious problem. I would have lost the crop of hay. I had to have it. And I said, well, is there a thermostat that would fix this, a replacement, something else I could put in here? Or I'll just pull out the thermostats and run the tractor without thermostats, just to get the hay done. I'll get the thermostats later. Well, he told me that it was a heavy-duty thermostat, and they weren't common. Well, he was wrong. He was absolutely wrong. It is the most common thermostat that you can get. It fits a 1950s to a 1960s, 2 decades of Chevrolets, Cadillac, Buick, Oldsmobile. It's the most common thermostat ever made, and the John Deere guy was telling me that it was I had to get it from him. Well, he was wrong. And here's what I'm trying to say: just-in-time inventory means they don't have it when you need it. And what I'm also seeing is that the people who are supposedly knowledgeable behind the counter don't have the knowledge that we need in order to help us get through the purchase of the products we need. That's what I'm saying. Frank, I can't believe the lack of knowledge that people who are in the business have. That's the point.
It's very common. It's the same in my profession, or I'm sure in agriculture or mechanics or these one-stop oil lube places. No one takes time to learn really a trade, through and through. Just they learn the salesman script.
There you go. I agree. Frank Underhill, UnderhillSecurities.com. We'll talk about gold and silver and precious metals when we come back. I've got a new term that I'd like to apply to the current young generation. Let me see if you guys agree. Am I all wet? We'll find out. Class, Frank Underhill's with us. And, we've had names for generations. We have Generation X. We have Generation Y. And, of course, about the greatest generation. Tom Brokaw talked about that. That would be those who enlisted and fought in World War II on our side, the greatest generation. So what do we call the current crop? What do we call the current generation? Well, these are the guys that are addicted to their cell phones and video games. They say they are the best and brightest that we've ever had in school. I just think it's impossible to prove it. So I'd have to use the term the weakest generation. Am I wrong? If you think so, let me know. You can give us a call. And the number is 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. Am I wrong? Is it the weakest generation? This particular generation I'm talking about, these young people, have back problems. They have back problems because they're hunched over using their cell phones, hunched over using video games. They are the ones who are less inclined to be involved in pickup games of ball after school. They can certainly play organized games, but do they play spontaneous games like we did when we were in elementary school? You know, one guy'd have a bat, one guy'd have a ball, and we'd find something to make makeshift bases, and we'd play baseball. And if there were 4 of us, 5 of us, 6 of us, it kind of didn't matter. We just played. It wasn't organized. We didn't have uniforms. So we got exercise. We were out in the sun, and we made things. We made go-karts. We took old lawnmower engines and boards and some old wheels that we found, and we used curtain rods as axles and got some nuts and bolts that were lying around and got scraps of wood, and we made go-karts, and we rode them around in a neighborhood. It was all illegal. Nobody really cared. Police didn't come. But we were innovative. I don't see anything like that going on. I don't see young people changing oil in their vehicles. I don't see them changing the cars, servicing the brakes, learning how to do air conditioning service work. I don't see it. Therefore, the weakest generation. Frank, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I see a lot of that around here. I see, a lot of heavier people, a lot of lethargic people, a lot of even, working people who have really no outside activity. Mm-hmm. And there seems to be a numbing, but the reason being is because you have everything is tied in, unfortunately, to internet, television, video games, everything from war scenes to zombies. And it seems to be the escape of everyday life for a lot of people now. And if you look at some of these gaming stocks like that make video games, if you look at their lows and you look at where they are now, for the most part, they're on the rise. So it says right there that people are buying a lot more. And you look at, some of these movie video game streamers, and you look at their stocks, they're up pretty high too. So that more people, but this is a big plan to have people spending more time in the home, off the streets, out of the parks, out of public places, and then once in a while you'll see the odd public service message, with a family going out la-di-da-di-da, tiptoe through the tulips in some wilderness preserve. This is, to make it a big getaway. And I think that what we're seeing is a lot of complacency. Like, Vincent, I don't think anyone can do what you do. Every day's a walk in the park for you. You have your cattle, you do your feeding, you have green pastures, you keep busy. And I've met you a couple of times, and, for a person like you to be as fit as you are and still have your hair a nice color and that's too good for people these days, unfortunately.
Frank Underhill, CEO of UnderhillSecurities.com. UnderhillSecurities.com. Trusted advisor to Bob Chapman. When we get back, Frank, let's talk about what's happening with gold and silver. I was chatting with Tom, our newest producer, during the break. And we were getting acquainted, and he was asking me about the delay button. I was telling him that many of us have either had the police called on us at usapreparedness.com or have been arrested for something. And he was asking me about the delay button, and I said, well, the only time you need to worry about that is when Ricky's on. And, sometimes Rick gets caught up in what he's saying, and just, a word or two just slips out. It slips out. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's a Navy SEAL. You get to hear him on Thursdays. And this Thursday, we're going to be talking about some very serious information, Fukushima, radiation, solar events that are happening. And he and I think they're both very serious. So you might want to let your friends and family know about that particular broadcast. Frank Underhill's with us. Frank, gold and silver. When we first started the broadcast today, silver was somewhere around 24.07. At the very moment, it's 24.24. So it's up What do you think's happening?
Well, again, from last week's program, the week before and the week before, we're continuing to see a slow but steady erosion in the U.S. dollar. Therefore, it's pushing up gold prices. And if you saw gold flirted just over $1,400 early this morning, and I think what you're going to start to see is economies in Europe are starting to repair itself. Asian economies are on the mend. I think this is going to only put more pressure on the dollar, and therefore I think we could probably see higher gold prices in the future. And already gold bugs are putting a higher call on gold. Much higher than prices are today. And but the evidence here is that the dollar is weakening, and of course you're seeing oil remain consistently over $100 a barrel for quite some time now. Now, what's going to happen when China starts to pick up demand for crude, or Europe is going to pick up demand for crude, or you see in the Middle East what plays out there? I think will only help oil even more so.
Frank, it's I've been looking at the price of oil, and for me as a farmer, I'm not happy with it. If I buy 3,000 gallons of diesel, I'm looking at $10,000, and that's a lot of money for fuel. It really is, and I'm just not comfortable with it. Frank, I remember buying on this farm within the last 8 years. I remember buying farm fuel, which is diesel, dyed red, without the 44-cent tax on it, for about $1.58, something like that, maybe $1.60, really close to that. And right now we're double that. We're literally double that, and it's painful. It really is. Frank, you're talking about silver. You had mentioned over the past several weeks that you thought it was on an upward trend, and you were absolutely correct.
And that's when it was $19 too, Vincent.
Yeah. I mean, from $19, all the way up to right now $24.24. You were right. But so, Frank, I talked to one of our instructors over the weekend, and I try to check in with him about precious metal prices, physical, because he's got his finger on the pulse of it. He does not like me to mention his name, so I won't. But anyway, what he said was typical numbers, culled silver dollars, meaning nothing special, banged up, dented, dinged, worn. The melt value over the weekend was $18.50. That's how much silver these silver dollars had in them on average. And they were selling for $28.40. So silver value, melt value, $18.50, selling on the open market in retail at $28.40 is a 50%, 51% premium. That's really high, Frank. That means for people to want to pay that, there must be a demand for silver in not great quality. They want it, and they're willing to buy silver dollars at $28.40 a piece on average. So I think that's telling us that the demand is still there. And then now a much better quality silver dollar, like an uncirculated 1921 Morgan, $43 a piece. So banged up, not great condition, $28.40. Nice, really nice silver dollars, $43 a piece. So, and all the while, the melt value of that silver is $18.50. So I feel really good, Frank, because I have always liked silver dollars. I have never wavered. I've always said that they are my favorite. They are still my favorite. And I believe that anyone who buys them for the long term will do okay. I really do. And I'm betting the farm on it. I really am.
Vincent, could I just go into just delve into the real world here just for a minute?
Yeah. Right.
People who say that or say that you cannot get rich on gold or get rich on silver, people should look at Walter Sazamko. Walter Sazamko. He died with $7 million worth of metal, with gold and silver. This is a fellow who was a recluse, who was a self-constitutionalist or sovereign citizen, whatever you want to call him. He died leaving $7 million. Do you think he worried about a roof over his head or no food on his plate? He was a man of modest means that lived within his means, but he accumulated over the course of a lifetime. And this is the financial planning I think that people should, use as a blueprint. And, I'm not kidding you. His name is Walter Sazamko. It's a national, for me, a household name. But this is how people should be looking at any kind of prudent savings. And it doesn't hurt whether to be buying what we talk about most of the time. And he of course, his metal outlived him. I think there's only one inheritor left, and I don't know the story with that, but I think they're auctioning his gold off. So basically, the metals outlasted him.
Mm-hmm. Well, that really is the plan, Frank. When people buy silver, physical gold, the plan is to pass it on, and to keep accumulating it, and if necessary, to use it for purchasing things that are needed at that time. But the plan is not to buy it for the short run. The plan is to accumulate it for the long run and to pass it on. And it's private. It is absolutely private, if you want it to be. If you want it to be public.
No one knew that he had it. Vincent, no one knew that he had it.
Right. And in class, if you decide to purchase precious metals, I suggest that you find a place where you can control it, where you can have access to it whenever you want to go to that place, wherever that may be. And don't put it in a safety deposit box, and don't entrust it to others. I mean, it's crazy to have your physical metals controlled by somebody else. It's not that big of a deal. Frank, so many people say to me, I hear it over and over, where would I put it? If I bought an ounce of gold, it's so valuable, where would I put it? Are you kidding? An ounce of gold is lower in value than the average credit card's credit limit. If you have a $5,000 credit limit, you could get 2.5 ounces of gold. Well, where do you keep your credit card? On your dresser? I mean, a lot of people have their credit cards out, and they don't really care about securing them. Well, all you have to do is find a place that is secure. You can remember where it is, and no one's going to find it. It's as simple as that. So my advice is, if you're going to get into the precious metals physical market, find a place to keep it. Discuss it with your spouse, and keep accumulating. That's my advice. Try to buy it on the dips. I mean, we all try to buy it on the dips. And as Bob Chapman said, just keep accumulating it. And he was right.
And Vincent, I don't think that this individual, like I said, ever missed a meal or ever went a day without a roof over his head either. And, once people get attuned to this, and I don't even think this guy would even read the news or read a newspaper, care what Wall Street does or whatnot. He just went about living his life. Mm-hmm. And if anything, he's probably more concerned with government encroachment, and of course in death, it's the government auctioning off and wanting to get their cut of their shekel of the inheritance tax on it. But this is why people buy and for lack of a better word, store these kind of commodities. And
there's nothing wrong with storing It's been called hoarding. People will buy cases of beans, cases of corn, and the media will call them hoarders, as if it's a bad thing. I think that's crazy. I think buying what you need when it's at a low price is the only prudent way to purchase. I really believe that. I think that if you buy, for example, I'll just say what I did. I was at the Chinese factory outlet. Mrs. Finelli and I had to run into the John Deere dealer. I needed a gasket for the thermostats on the tractor. And they didn't have the thermostats, but they did have the gasket. And so for $3, I was able to buy a gasket that was probably worth 30 or 40 cents. And so we stopped at the Chinese factory outlet, and they had cases of baked beans on display, 50 cents a can. So I bought 4 cases. I thought that was a good start. 4 cases of 24. I bought 96 cans. The girl that was at the checkout had to check it 3 or 4 times just to make sure she had the count right. 4 cases, 24 in a case, 96 cans. So that was a good start for us. Frank Underhill and I will be right back. Frank Underhill's with us, and I mentioned, Frank, that I was at the Chinese factory outlet, and I really don't like going there. But Mrs. Finelli had to pick up a few things, and Van Camp's pork and beans were on sale for 50 cents a can, so I bought 96 cans. And here's what I want to share with the class. When you do something like that, not only do you get it at a lower price, but you avoid paying the tax on those that you didn't buy. So I got 96 cans for the typical price of 48, so I saved the tax, and the tax in Lebanon, Missouri is 7.225%. So I felt good about doing it. And you might want to do something similar where you live. Frankie, we're talking about gold and silver. I want to share with the class something that a very wise man I know from Virginia said. This man's name is Ashley. I won't give you his last name, but his name is Ashley, and he's an auctioneer. And I was thinking about this weekend when I was looking at the price of silver dollars. And Ashley said, when I asked him how things are going in the auction market, this was many, many years ago, he said, well, Vinny, good stuff sells good, and junk is always junk. Good stuff sells good, and junk is always junk. That's his quote. And what he meant by that is there's always a market for the quality, the good items. But junk is always junk, and it sells poorly. So I wanted to share that with you. Frank, gold, 1396.60 was where it was at the last time I took a quick look. Do you have a feel for where we're going with gold? You think the dollar is still going to erode?
Well, let me. I do believe that, and I once knew a short seller, and he says it's easier to sell the stock once than it is for these guys to bring in the buying in every day. And I think you'll start to see the Fed let up on buying treasuries and dollars, and I think this will help abate the dollar and of course a rise in commodities. And people, listeners, this is not a get rich quick or whatnot. This is a trepid over time progression. You look at real estate. People were saying, when real estate was low, you probably had people still wanting to sell more real estate when it was even lower. But now you look how even in a degree how that has turned around somewhat here. Even with high interest rates, existing home sales are up and new home sales are down. So, and they say in some parts of the country there's, a bubble happening, but everything seems to be micromanaged now. And I think, with that being said, that the dollar will definitely, it has no choice but, I think, to go lower, because also a high dollar does not help our exports any, and it does nothing to help alleviate unemployment either. Like when you mentioned you go to the Asian Walmart there, what the term that you used,
Chinese factory outlet.
The factory outlet there. How often are people They say durable goods are sales are lower. But how do they know if people have already bought all the necessities and people are saving up to buy bigger ticket items? After all, look, the average automobile, I can speak for myself, is over 11 years old, and it keeps starting to break down a bit. And I just fixed a head gasket, but next time something goes wrong with it, I'm just going to get the same vehicle again. But actually, they don't make my vehicle anymore. It's a Saturn, and GM stopped making it. But I love my little car. But I think, that being said, I'm saving for and when I do buy, I pay cash. I don't finance anything, and I don't borrow any money, and I have no mortgages or anything. Well, I don't even have a credit card. I don't believe in the banking Illuminati wanting into my wallet every month and generating invoices for me, and I hate window mail.
There you go. Me too. Frank Underhill, when we come back, let's talk about Sears. Sears is starting a program to lease appliances. Can't afford them? No problem. Lease it. Are you kidding? Leasing appliances. We have gotten to that point in this country. We're so broke, we can't afford a refrigerator. Frank Underhill, Vin Finelli, USAPrepares.com. Please stay around. Stick with us for hour number 2. We'll be back.
Is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked, locked. This is hour number 2, USAPrepares.com. Meet up tonight, Ziggy's movie night. Madeline Frazier's going to be bringing a movie, and I'll be discussing the observations of what I see in the economy. Top of the hour, you heard a discussion about Samsung. By the way, Samsung has manufactured a TV for 2013, and the TV has a camera in the front, and it can be hacked. Let me say it a different way. It can be hacked. So where is your television? Would you like your television to be a window from which the world can watch you through your television? For a long time, people have been wondering, can a television actually see what's going on in the home? Well, now it can. It can. So as I've been to many people's homes, their TV is in a place where they can watch it from all kinds of angles, and lots of people have them either in family rooms or living rooms, and they can watch their TVs sometimes from the kitchen, or they have them in the kitchen. Now imagine having a television that can be a window from which others outside of your home can watch what's going on in your home. Would you like that? Well, Samsung has that feature that can be hacked. Consider that when you buy your TV. And if you have a TV and it has a camera on it, you might just want to put a piece of tape over that camera. I'm not kidding. And you might want to find out where the microphone is, and you might want to put a piece of tape over the microphone. A lot of us at USAPrepares.com who have notebook computers have tape over the camera, and we make sure the microphone is turned off. Frank, I saw many years ago, back easily 10 years ago, a demonstration where a person turned on the camera in a dormitory room of girls at college. Just simply turned on the camera, and no one in the dormitory room knew that the camera was being turned on. I saw it as a demonstration of what hackers can do. Pretty scary stuff, huh?
Was this a peeping Tom, or?
Well, it was like that. It was showing how someone who was inclined to be a peeping Tom with the proper skills, could remotely turn on the camera and the microphone of notebook computers in a dormitory. And the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, sent home notebook computers with their students. And this is the government, the city of Philadelphia public school systems remotely turned on the cameras and the microphones of notebook computers that they distributed to the students. They remotely turned them on and did not tell the students that they were spying on their home activities. And the story, became public. So here we have, we talk about NSA, we talk about the spying. Well, the city of Philadelphia was spying on the families that they gave these notebook computers for the children to take home and use.
Yeah, I don't have anything with cameras on them, and I do that deliberately. But people who buy these contraptions should, set themselves up for the realization that, yes, you can be compromised, and you're just letting it happen. When you have these, because there's always a person with a lot of time on their hands who knows how to get into these internet systems and log on to and even take control of your computer. There was a fellow who had a baby microphone or speaker in the baby's crib room and talking to the baby, and the parents were shocked. Well, you shouldn't be shocked, because if you got wireless and you got radio waves, anything can happen.
I was at a relative's house many, many years ago, and I was traveling on the interstate, and I bought a scanner. And so I was traveling down the roads, and I thought, it'd be nice to have a scanner, so if there's an event ahead of us, we would hear about it on the scanner. Well, I brought the scanner into the house, and I showed the relative, and so they showed me the guest room and unpacked all my stuff, and so I had the scanner on, and I heard the lady of the house on her cordless phone on a scanner. She's talking to her friends, and she's saying that she had company and all that kind of stuff. Well, I walked the scanner into the kitchen where she was, and she got a chance to hear herself on the scanner. And when she was done with the call, she said, "Wow, I wondered why my neighbor up the road knew everything that was going on in our house." And it's because these cordless phones transmit. It's not like it's a line between the cordless phone and the receiver. It's a 360-degree radius that these phones transmit. That's why you can use them in your living room, your dining room, bedroom, outside, in the front yard, in the garage, in the backyard. You can even use your cordless phone at your neighbor's house. Okay, so they transmit pretty far, and we have people who have nothing better to do than listen in on phone calls of these cordless telephones. So just as a thought, I don't have a cordless telephone in our house, and I don't have a camera attached to a computer. Now, Genesis would like me to do that. They'd like Vinny to be on video, but Vinny's dragging his feet, because I'm concerned that someone might be able to turn it on remotely when I haven't disconnected it or something like that. Just a thought, Frank, and I'm glad you're on the same page. And by the way, when you mention people having a lot of time on their hands, that's what government employees do. Government employees complain they're so hard at work, so they're overworked, they're overstressed. Those guys have more time on their hands. I have never seen any group of individuals work so little and get overpaid so much as government employees. I'm not kidding. Not making friends here with government employees, but that's okay. Frank, let's talk about the job market. What's going on in the job market?
Well, you're seeing, again, persistently high levels of unemployment, and you're also seeing a lot more people moving back home with their parents because they simply can't get jobs. To me, that's the real unemployment indicators. How many people are moving home to live with getting up their parents? And I think a lot of it, though, it has not per se to do with economics. I think a lot of it has to do with technology because, of course, you have one Caterpillar tractor does the same work as 100 people. The internet works that much more faster. The kind of jobs you're seeing more are generally low-paying jobs that really should be low-paying, like working in car rental, customer service and whatnot. And therefore, I don't really see. I think that I see this as more of a systemic, built-in unemployment than there's going to be some miracle drop in unemployment where you're going to have a lot of high-paying jobs. I just don't see it happening.
Frank, you're absolutely right. When I look, as you were saying this, the Caterpillar tractor, I've got about 100 horsepower tractor, and I can attach it to a 15-foot back wing mower, the kind of mower that a highway department will use. And we've got one. And when I want to mow one of our fields, I can hook this up, and within about a day, I can mow about 40 acres. So how big is 40 acres? It's a quarter of a mile by a quarter of a mile. And the reason it takes me so long to mow that is because there are trees and rock piles everywhere, and there's ponds and stuff in the field that I've got to mow around. And if it was just, a quarter of a mile by a quarter of a mile, that'd be real easy. I could bang that up pretty quickly. But because I have to wind around with this mower, it takes about a day to mow 40 acres. Now, the point I'm trying to make is the tractor's about 100 horsepower. That would probably be the equivalent of trying to get maybe 50 horses, actual horses, to pull something to mow that field. And it would be an impossible task to cut it, by hand, with some kind of a blade that you'd carry with you and swing back and forth. That would take forever. So yes, we have mechanized to a great extent, and that's how our family is able to manage our farm with so few people, because we use the leverage of technology. You're absolutely correct. And I don't see, unless we run out of oil, or unless oil becomes so cost prohibitive, I don't see much changing there.
Vincent, I just want to share an anecdotal here for a second. I was watching a Civil War movie the other night about these Union soldiers staying in this Confederate household, and they had this young boy who was plowing a field for his mother with a plow and a donkey. And you can imagine how the kid was struggling, and then the older Union captain comes out and shows them what to do, and how they're plowing this dirt, and how the grass is going over and the dirt is coming up. And it was not really a lot of land, but can you imagine, you look at a big agro plantation or agro crop today, and you compare it to this young kid's donkey and plow, just how far we've come along.
Yeah, Frank, if you consider what would it take, let's say a person wanted to have a backyard garden, 20 feet by 20 feet, and all we had to do was dig up the grass, turn it over, that's it, put a shovel in it, take a shovel full of grass and turn it over to compost it a little bit. That's all we want to do. We want to go down 8 inches. That would be a 2-day task for most people, 20 by 20, easily 2 days. And so what do we do? Well, we get a rototiller. And then we go, wow, this is really hard. I mean, this is a lot of work, rototilling a 20 by 20 garden. The point is, right, we have become so dependent on technology, and we don't plan, because had we planned, we could have covered that dirt with plastic, and we could have made it soft, and we could have made it a lot easier to compost it and turn it over. But no, we wait till the last minute because we have the luxury of technology. When we come back, Frank, let's talk about the government shutdown. Will it ever happen? Frank Underhill, CEO, UnderhillSecurities.com. The schedule. On Tuesday, the 27th, that's tomorrow, Freeze Dry Guy is going to be with us. And I'm going to ask him what it's like the first time a person jumps out of an airplane. He's done it many times. Now, on the 30th, I've invited Matt Jones to be with us. Matt Jones is the CEO of cedarside.com. Very briefly, I was trying to solve the problem with fleas and ticks on our dogs. We have 5 dogs. We have a Neapolitan Mastiff, and we have an English Mastiff, and both of those dogs are outside protection animals. They patrol the property, and they're flea and tick magnets, and then the first thing they do is come on inside and bring them with them. So we don't like to use fipronil and some of those neurotoxins that destroy an animal's neurological system. So we don't use that. So that means that we're plagued with fleas and ticks. Well, in my search for a natural solution to fleas and ticks, I was talking about it with Dr. Norman Shealy. He's on the air with us every Wednesday. He was talking about a product that's known as Cedarside, CEDARCIDE, cedarside.com. And on Wednesday, Dr. Norman Shealy and I are going to talk about this product. And on Friday, Matt Jones, the CEO of cedarside.com, is going to be on the air with me. I've invited him to be on the air, and I told him that what I'd like to do is discuss my findings with him firsthand. So he has no idea what I'm going to say. And I'm continuing the evaluation. It's not complete. So I told him how I was going to do it, and that's Friday. Seriously. That might be an interesting broadcast. And also on Friday, Bert Bertonis is going to be joining with us, and we're going to be talking about electric cars from firsthand experience. What it's like buying one, what it's like owning one, what it's like driving one. We'll talk about the maintenance, and we'll talk about planning trips, because they don't go as far as you might like them to go. Would it work for me at the farm? No. But if you live in an area where there's an extension cord, you can carry one with you, you might be able to recharge your electric vehicle, when you get where you're going. So for me, it doesn't work, but for some it does, and it might even be a solution for some of you. And we're going to talk about electric cars on Friday. Frank Underhill's with us. Government shutdown. Frank, is that a possibility? What do you think?
I don't believe so, and I say that because not that they, when I say they and talk about people who support shutting down government, like I believe all this stuff should be locked up myself anyways, but I think they just like to make headlines, and I don't think they really mean it, and I don't know how you would.
Well, actually, I'd kind of like it.
Well, that's what I just said, but I don't know if they would know how to do it.
Well, if the government did shut down, first of all, where I live in the middle of nowhere, nobody's coming to help me. The police aren't coming. Unless they're coming to bother me, they're not coming. Unless I call them and ask them to show up, they're not coming. And I kind of like it that way. So I'm thinking, for me, a government shutdown, okay, so the post office wouldn't work so well. That's fine. There are a lot of things. What else wouldn't happen? We wouldn't have the police patrolling for speeders and taillights that are out and lack of use of signals and those kinds of things. There would be fewer tickets, probably no tickets being issued. It'd be kind of nice.
There's
it
a
really
lot of
would
people
be nice.
Who would like to see this happen.
Yeah,
but the unfortunate thing is that they say it, but they won't follow through on it.
Well, I'd really like to see.
Just to make you and me happy and people in the same mindset, or are they fooling us, or what's their agenda? And you also don't say you're going to do it. You just do it. You don't say, "Oh, I'm going to attack this country." You just go ahead and do it. And here they say, well, we're going to do this, and then there's this expectation that an event is going to occur, and then nothing happens.
Yeah, but we might attack Syria. You want to talk about that when we come back?
Sure, we can go into that, absolutely.
Yeah, Syria. Yeah, that might be the answer to our economic problems, Syria. Attacking the Middle East. We'll be right back. Frank Underhill's with us. If you'd like to contact Frank Underhill, you can go to underhillsecurities.com, UNDERHILL securities.com. Frank Underhill was a trusted advisor to Bob Chapman. Bob Chapman would call Frank many, many times, and that's how I met. That's how I met Frank Underhill. One of the last things that Bob Chapman said to me just before he died, I was on the phone with him on a Saturday, and he was in the hospital awaiting last rites. And I'm probably the last broadcaster to talk with the late Bob Chapman. And Bob Chapman said, Frank Underhill. And it was very, very hard to understand what he's saying. And he said, call Frank Underhill. Call Frank Underhill. And I really couldn't make out everything he was saying, but I pieced it together. And within a few days, I was able to speak to Frank Underhill. And we've been friends ever since. Frank's been to the Get Prepared Expo. We talk on the phone, outside the broadcast. And he provided Bob Chapman with a wealth of up-to-date information about the market, the securities market, the mining sector, the resource sector. And Bob Chapman then used that information for his 44 hours of weekly broadcasts. Bob Chapman was on the air more than any radio personality you can think of per week. And he did not have his own broadcast. He was on probably every network you could think of, including George Norrie's Coast to Coast and Alex Jones and so forth. So Bob Chapman was a great resource for what's happening in the economy. And he gave us an insight as to what would happen. He told us that probably within 12 months from now, the economy would collapse. That was his feeling. And that's what he told me privately as well as publicly. Frank, Syria. Syria, there's, the media is saying that there's very little doubt that the Assad regime is behind the chemical attack on the people. Now, it looks like warships are headed that way. It looks like we're going to attack. I mean, that's what the media is telling us. We're going to attack. The media is the government is telling the media to get us ready for an attack. That could be another war. And, Frank, it's not just Syria that would be involved. What do you think?
Unfortunately, the United States military should only be used to defend itself. We don't have any place getting involved in other countries' civil wars. We've seen this with, America got into Libya, overthrowing the government there. America got into Egypt, overthrowing the government there. Got into Yemen, overthrowing the government there. Everywhere we go is, in Tunisia, overthrowing government. Everywhere we go. So you can't blame this guy in Syria for keeping the U.S. out, because then he'll be next. And all these governments that have been overthrown, there's never been any a peaceful transition. They're still in protest. There's still strife. You only have to look as far as Egypt to see what happens. And when you have these people of influence on these foreign relations committees, armed services committees, stoking up, we're going to go to war. Really, a country like Syria has never done anything to me. I don't have any beef against any Syrians in particular. And I don't know if any of your other listeners feel Syria's ever harmed them, but I can speak for myself. We have no business even showing what goes on in this place. This is an internal war that the fellow running the country has been inherited from his dad, and now they use the words chemical attack. Well, we've heard that chemical attack in Iraq, and look where it took us. It's like there's no end
and we've heard weapons of mass destruction. I know a young man who wanted to shoot a machine gun, so he joined the Army, and he went to Afghanistan. And he said he would never go back. Never go back. He would never re-enlist. And what he thought that this was all about freedom and democracy. And actually, it was about killing people. Frank, I have some very strong feelings about war. And they center around old men starting them, old men starting wars, and young men and young women dying. And then, of course, there are the civilian casualties and the collateral damage. Collateral damage means maiming and wounding and killing people that just happen to be nearby. It's all unacceptable, absolutely unacceptable. And if you look at what the United States of America's government is doing, it's sticking its nose into other people's business. It's stealing their natural resources. It's stealing their wealth. It's manipulating their businesses. And it's not nice. It's not necessary.
And Vin, can I just say, too, that this even sticking in the business even goes on probably some of the most pristine, visually pristine coastline. Like if anyone would ever go to Morocco and look over the Mediterranean, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, et cetera, geographically very beautiful countries. Mm-hmm. And to hear that we want to start going in and dropping bombs on more people that already got enough problems. They got their own bombs being dropped on them. They don't need, bombs of foreign nations swarming in there and doing more destruction. I think they're doing a good job of it themselves.
Yeah, and how does Iraq look after we help them? After we helped bring them democracy by destroying their power grid, their electric generation plants, their water filtration systems, their water pumping stations, their cities, and then we littered the countryside with depleted uranium. How well is that working?
I don't think a large population like they have there has ever been in so much turmoil and peril in the whole history of the country as it is today.
Frank, I have to say that if some foreign country decided to help us out with our representative republic and then said, you know what, you guys really have some problems, you need our help, we're going to come over there and we're just going to bomb a few cities. Let's start with Springfield, Missouri, and we'll help you restore your representative republic. We'll take out Springfield, we'll take out St. Louis, good measure. Let's take out Kansas City, and we'll work our way outward from there. Frank, the farmers would be guerrillas. We would be in guerrilla warfare. We would instantly become hunters, and we would hunt the prey. And the prey would be those involved in destroying our way of life. That's what would happen. I'm certain of it. And what do we call the guys that do that? The guys like me and the other farmers who would respond to the threats of death from some invading force. What do we call those guys? Insurgents? Is that what we call them?
I believe, really? Yeah, insurgents, yeah. And if you look at Syria, the last thing Turkey needs, which is the gateway to Europe, basically, is a big onslaught of refugees pouring in there. And, and I'd just like to suggest that anyone who knows anything about that country, they got Hezbollah running the gamut in that land. And so if you go in, and of course Hezbollah is a backdoor to Iran, and you're just going to be kicking over a whole hornet's nest, really, it's not a good idea.
You're absolutely right.
We've got to keep our soldiers home.
Yes, and our founding fathers, brilliant, absolutely brilliant men, warned us about foreign entanglements. And, Frank, ever since we've had the Pentagon, we have never won a war. Before we had the Pentagon, we never lost a war. Frank, earlier we were talking about Sears. Sears is embarking, I think they've got 10 stores now that have been put on this trial program where they are leasing appliances. So for 18 months, you can make payments on that refrigerator that the person can't afford, and it can be delivered, and you can use it, and you pay on it. Now, if at 18 months, at the 18-month point, if you decide that you don't want it, they'll come pick it up, and you will have lost, everything that you've put into it, other than the value you've gained from leasing it. But they'll come and pick up that refrigerator, or you can make that final payment and own it. Frank, we have gotten to the point where we can't afford a refrigerator, and I want to talk about that. A refrigerator used to cost a few $100s. Today, a refrigerator is so complex that it can cost a couple $1,000s. Let's get back to having a refrigerator be what it is, or it's supposed to be, something to keep the contents cold at a specific temperature and have easy access to it through a door. How about having one of those instead of one with a television and all these other electronic features? And let's keep the price down. And by the way, Frank, this article that I posted on the website about Sears leasing these refrigerators talks about, what happens if your refrigerator breaks and you've got to wait 2 months to get one. How do we get to the point where you can't go to an appliance store and buy an appliance and take it home with you right then and there? How do we get to that point? If you go to Sears and you want to buy an appliance, they have display models, but they'll ship you one or they'll deliver you one for you. But you can't take it right then and there unless it's a discontinued or returned floor model that is on the floor for clearance. If you want a new one, you're going to have to wait. How do we get to that point?
Good question. Absolutely.
And frankly, you should have a 3-in-1 hard start kit at your home to jumpstart your refrigerator or freezer. I bought one for $11.35 on eBay about a week ago. You ought to have one, class. Check it out. 3-in-1 hard start kit. We'll be right back. To mention, I talked about a 3-in-1 hard start kit. It's a little package that has 5 wires, and you can, if your refrigerator or freezer fails, you can attempt to restart it with one of these kits. I paid $11.35 shipped on eBay. You can find them on the internet for $8.99. You can buy them locally for about $30. I think you ought to consider having one. And I posted on the website what this looks like. So if you want to get one, this is the size for the common household refrigerator and freezer compressors. And it worked for me. I had a freezer that just stopped working, and it was the compressor. I determined that was the problem. I got a hard start kit, and I'm back in business. And it's a permanent fix if your compressor is in good shape. If your compressor is in bad shape, it will let you get along for a couple hours or a couple weeks. But if your compressor is still in good shape, it's a permanent fix. Frank, I wanted to share that we've got a meetup tonight, and I'll be talking about my thoughts and your thoughts. I'll do a recap on today's broadcast. We'll talk about the economy, gold and silver, and what we see tonight. Ziggy's 5:30, Springfield, Sunshine, and Glenstone. And Frank, if someone wants to get in touch with you, if let's say they have a portfolio of securities, what can you do to help them?
Well, I can. First of all, I just want your listeners to know I'm purely gold, silver, and energy. I don't like any technology issues, any banking deals or industrials, or I like just straight commodities that trend to what the U.S. dollar does. If someone is coming to me to buy Microsoft or any of these other deals, I can't help you. But if you'd like to learn about gold and contra dollar investing, I'd be more than happy to go over it with you. Vincent, just before closing out about the Middle East, this is not the first time that we have ever had problems with them. I would just implore listeners just to look at the burning of the USS Philadelphia. Great men like Stephen Decatur, who went to Libya to free our forces abroad, and this was back in 1802, 1803. Long before there was going in to kill bin Laden, with helicopters and tech. This is where one man with 80 Marines went and did something bravely heroic, very far from America, far from friendly waters. These are what true Americans do to help their fellow American in peril in lands abroad, not going in and looking for another war to start. But I just like people just to read of great Marines like Sam Decatur and how he really emboldened American foreign policy.
Yeah. I'm with you, Frank, and I'd like to share on page 1 on usaprepares.com, there's a farm festival in Indiana, and the government is targeting farmers. Now, Mark Baker from Michigan was on the air with us on Friday, and the Department of Natural Resources wants to kill his pigs. He's got about 150 pigs now, and they're demanding that he kill them, or they're going to kill him, and they're going to arrest him. He's faced with what looks like $1.5 million fine right now. And it's growing every day because he's having more and more pigs. Well, usaprepares.com, 4 of our instructors are going to Indiana to a rally to help support him, and we're calling attention to his plight. So he's a farmer in Michigan, and the Michigan Department of Natural Resources wants him to stop producing a living. They say that his pigs are wild. They are not wild. And imagine that. Imagine the government saying that he has to kill his animals. He's not going to do it. He's risking going to jail. He's risking a massive farm that is in excess of his assets. And he's facing down the government. And we're going with him. Judy Dollarhide will be there. John Dollarhide will be there. Ken Hurley will be there. I'll be there. And hopefully others will join us. Post is on the website, page 1, usaprepares.com. Frank Underhill, thanks so much for being with us. And if you'd like to call Frank, 702-987-5449, 702-987-5449. Link on the website, underhillsecurities.com. Frank, thanks so much for being with us. Class, above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next?